In March 2020, COVID-19 has become a global pandemic. The whole world being placed under lockdown. While the pandemic does have severe issues for everyone, immunocompromised people have it far much worse since day one. Millions of deaths caused by this pandemic, while many others, including myself, were fortunate enough to survive it, but the same could not be said for those who are immunocompromised who have to deal with the long-term effects after getting COVID-19. The world in shambles. The pandemic has also disrupted my high school graduation as well, including my first 2 years in college as well, forcing all of us to shift to a virtual learning environment, something that many of us had to get accustomed to for the first time. While everything seems depressing at the time, but not all hope is lost. These are the immunocompromised people that I know personally and had the honor to interview, and here are their stories. My first question, while you had COVID back in what was it? I don't remember what year, but last time we spoke, you said that you caught COVID from work and you also have what was it, high blood pressure if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I do have a high blood pressure.
Okay, so my first question, while you had COVID, were there any side effects that you've experienced?
Yes, I did. I have fever. I was coughing, and I had pain, hurt in my body, and, itches in my bodies.
Hmm.
A little bit headache.
Like, was there anyone else that you were around with that had COVID or had experienced any side effects as well?
Yes, we did. My wife have was here, and she also got a little bit affected with COVID. And
Mhm.
that's it.
Okay. How long until you were finally able to test negative?
Just after maybe 2 weeks.
Were you in contact with anyone else who might had COVID before testing positive yourself?
I don't think so. That was in the pretty much in the pandemic where I was basically home here and from work, but I went to work, but we were not really working together. So
By not working together, you mean it was all like socially distanced or like limited people to work at the airport, if I'm not mistaken?
yeah, at that time I was working at the airport, and we have social distance, so we didn't really have to be together. Everybody were pretty much spread out. And since that time, I worked with the airline, and a lot of these flights were all canceled. The airport pretty much was dead.
I wasn't there at the airport when the pandemic first hit. I mean, I remember hearing about it, reading up about it when, when the pandemic first hit, everything was shut down for about a year and a half.
The airport was pretty much not shut down, but it was just very few flights, and we were starting getting a little bit busy. Just after the springtime, we were starting getting a little bit more busy. Uh, in the summertime, we got really busy, but not quite like we used to be late November in 2019
Mm.
and December.
Like, were there times that, well, you couldn't breathe? I mean, I know you mentioned the side effects before, but were there issues like any other issues like I don't know, like blurry vision or something like that?
I didn't really have not much. After that, I really didn't have much.
Mm.
I only lasted, like I said, from the beginning, a week, close to 2 weeks. Uh, Nothing really experienced. I know a lot of people talk about maybe the taste. They might lose the taste of the and the smell.
Yeah, loss of taste and smell. That's a
And
common
I
side
never
effect
had
from
that
my experience.
experience. Never had the experience. And I know some people mentioned about having issue with the lung, breathing issues. I have not experienced nothing that. Just pretty much after the week and a half, I was pretty much good, and no coffee, no fever. I was pretty much negative from the COVID, so I was okay.
Hmm. Okay, sounds good. Well, it's a good thing that you recovered and hopefully, well, even though right now and like there's no pandemic, but the virus still remains, but hopefully, well, things might get better, even though this is pretty much our new normal right now. And that concludes our interview. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. Yeah, thank you.
Last time we spoke, it was around last year, I think, or the year before. Before you had COVID, you have dialysis, according to Jose, if that's correct.
Correct.
My first question is, while you were going through COVID, were there any side effects that you've experienced?
Well, I just thought it was normal because that day I had a procedure done, and usually I get slight fevers after a procedure. So I didn't think anything of it, but I kept getting fevers, not high fevers, but like slight fevers when I used to go to dialysis.
Mm.
So they got concerned and sent me to get a COVID test.
Next question, was anyone around you who also had COVID had experienced any side effects?
No, we really didn't have any side effect, and nobody got tested until I got my results. And then my parents and my son got tested, and the only one that came out positive was my mom.
How long until you were finally able to test negative?
About a week, I believe.
Were you in contact with anyone who might have had COVID before you tested positive yourself?
No, the only place I have been to was the hospital, and my mom she's like the caregiver for me. So she was with me also. So I'm thinking that's where we caught it at the hospital.
While you were at the hospital, were you wearing a mask and was everything all socially distanced at that hospital?
Yes, it was, and we all had a mask. So
Hmm.
I really don't know how we caught it. You still have the people that don't like to listen, I guess, and
Yeah, that.
by other people that don't do what they're supposed to is how other people end up getting sick. I didn't
Right.
really have that much. The other thing that effects that I had was that I had like runny nose, But other than runny nose and the slight fever, I didn't have no other symptom whatsoever.
I see. Yeah. So, anyways, you said your mom tested positive for COVID. How is she doing? Like, she doesn't have like any health issues before testing positive herself?
Yeah, she's diabetic and stuff, but she didn't get no symptom. I think if I remember correctly, I think it was like her taste buds were a little off, but it wasn't anything major.
Yeah, loss of taste and smell. Yeah, those are the most common side effects when catching COVID. Well, from what I know so far, when this all began back in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any other side effects that you might have experienced, like loss of breath, well, breathing problems exactly, or lightheadedness or anything like that?
No.
Well, okay, that pretty much concludes our interview. So I'm just gonna stop the recording right there. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, today we will be interviewing my mother, who suffered a stroke back in October of 2016, who also tested positive for COVID back in summer of 2020. So let's begin. While going through COVID, were there any side effects that you've experienced yourself?
I'm gonna say in Spanish. Cuando me dio COVID, para mí era una gripe normal. No, ningún side effect, no.
Was anyone around you had COVID or tested positive for COVID whatsoever?
Tú y Helber, mi esposo,
How long did it take you to test negative for COVID?
una semana.
Before testing positive, were you around anyone who had COVID or who might have had COVID?
No que yo sepa.
Is it possible that you might have contacted COVID, while you were out in public, or someone who may not have been wearing a mask or following any of the protocols that were in place at the time?
Puede ser posible en público, sí. Porque yo iba al supermercado, a las tiendas, puede ser que alguien ahí lo tenía, me lo pegó.
That is all. Thank you for your time.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay.
You tested positive for COVID sometime around 2022, I think.
Yes.
While you were going through COVID, like, were there any side effects that you've experienced?
My taste went away. The smelling went away.
Was there anyone else around you who might have had COVID and also experienced any side effects?
My son and his girlfriend.
Before you tested positive for COVID, did you had like any health issues prior to that whatsoever?
I've always had health issues, but when they talked about COVID, I started drinking a lot of vitamins so my immune system would be strong. But yes, I did have high blood pressure, diabetes, and asthma.
So how long until you were able to finally get tested negative?
For me, it was like 10 days.
Were you in contact with someone who might have had COVID, like not just family members at home, but out in public?
I think it was more in public because I was the first one that got it. After that, everybody else started getting it that lived with me.
Okay, and that pretty much concludes my interview. So thank you for your time.
Okay, say hi to the family.
Okay, today we will be interviewing my therapist who's caught COVID around Christmas break, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, so for my first question, like, while you were going through COVID, were there any side effects that you experienced?
Yeah, I'm dealing with that right now. I got COVID in a party for the clinic December 23rd, 2022.
Gotcha.
I thought I was there because a couple of days later I had some symptoms. My family, that includes my wife, my daughter, my son-in-law, and my granddaughter, they got COVID too. But myself was the more symptom had.
Gotcha.
The side effect right now that I'm dealing after 2 years, almost a year, it was 2022, a year and 3 months. Right now I'm dealing with some kind of difficulty to breathe. I already went to the doctor. I've been checking for the last month on blood tests. I have the X-ray because the doctor trying to find out what is the reason that I have problem to breathe. Not the whole day, but for example, I walk for a few minutes. I have to take a break to breathe, to rest, including when I use the stair to go to the second floor. I had to take a break. That's the side effect that the doctor told me that many people after they got COVID, that's the same side effect. It's the only one, but I don't like the way how I feel.
Gotcha. So next question, was there anyone around you who also had COVID but also experienced any side effects as well?
Not like me. My daughter, my granddaughter, and my son-in-law, they got COVID twice, but they live in Michigan. But the side effect, they don't have the effect like me. They only complain about the fever and coughing, but they're doing fine right now. But not the same side effect, no.
How long until you were able to finally get tested negative?
To test negative, I think that a week later, when I got COVID.
Okay. So next one, was it possible that you might have caught it during the Christmas break or maybe somewhere else in public, like in, I don't know, a public area like a mall, a church, or something like that?
In my case, wasn't in the party. We have the party for the whole employee for the clinic. I remember I didn't want to go, but my wife insists. And then we went, sharing with a few people from the clinic. A couple days later, I had the symptom.
Gotcha. Okay, so last question. Did anyone from the family who caught COVID, have they experienced any side effects maybe similar to yours or something much worse?
No. I have one family that got in Dominican Republic, one cousin, that she was in like a life support for a couple of weeks. But thanks to God, she survived. Yeah,
That's
one of my cousins for my father's side. But for my whole family, my brother, they have COVID, his wife, my niece, they got COVID, all of them, but nobody in the family like me.
Okay, I see. So anyways, that concludes everything. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.